I definitely could have played a witch for Halloween this year. My oh, there's a German group that I just learned about. Was it like, it was like Kelly and Lily or something? I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, no, I wrote some notes this time. This is kind of like a continuation off of the last video, and I feel like maybe the last video I was thinking more about community. I suppose there's already established roots here, but there's another community of transplants, and I'm very familiar with the transplants because I've been in the trenches with y'all. Like, y'all are like the people who I've been doing research with, who I've been interning with, who I've been working with, you know, and I've seen y'all grinding and like hustling, and you know, I see y'all like apartment living now. Like, this is actually my first apartment. Like, I mean, I don't know if I've been like downplaying it. For me, that was huge. Like, if you like know more about me or my story, and I don't know if actually anyone on this page might, but I had a hard philosophy that like I wasn't gonna pay rent. I was just like very opposed to paying rent, and I was like, I'm never gonna do it. And honestly, like, I had a good thing going for quite some time. Like, this is the first time in my life that I've ever paid rent. I've definitely been that person who was kind of on that like housewife track for a while, and when I just realized like that relationship that I was in was not an appropriate relationship for me, you know, that's when I hustled hard to build a career for myself. And I guess I want to be clear, and maybe I'll make another video that's explicitly about like what that was like, because I think the intersectionality of my story is something that is kind of like it's like glossed over. And I know given there are people who I've grown up with, so there's certain relationships that like my parents, like my mom has with other parents, and the way that she speaks about the story, but even she's not familiar with my story because we actually are not that close. So she has her own interpretation of the story that I do think is a little bit misconstrued. And the process of kind of going from basically like housewife to fucking AI researcher, for me at least, was no joke. And it was really like fucking pedal to the metal, and like, don't team no sleep, right? Get this shit done, because you know, I wanted to make sure that I could put myself in a better position, and I wanted to have the option to not depend on anyone else. But I did want to speak a little bit to transplants, like people who, this is probably specifically geared toward the immigrant community, and maybe there are other people who are having these conversations, but I'm just not familiar with them. And I just see so much clustering and so much like tribalism, honestly, where there's just echo chambers. It's like everybody's hanging out with people who they already know, who are just like them, and then you're not hearing like the other side and like what it looks like. And just as a person who's like, I've grown up in the Bay Area, like I've grown up in Berkeley and Oakland. I still live here now, and there are people who also have like grown up here. Like, this is a community for some people. Like the barbershops that are closing down, the restaurants that are shutting down, the local amenities that are, you know, that were classic. There are a lot that are new, but these have been like gems in our community for like all of our lives, right? So in the same way that you can pack up your shit and go back home, wherever home is for you, this is home for some people. Like, this is not just Silicon Valley. Like, some people actually live here, some people raise families here. And, you know, as more and more of you are like coming here and are choosing to raise families here, like, I just think it's really important to like understand and maybe even really think about, maybe it's not that important actually, because I do feel like for me growing up, there was no one having this particular sort of conversation, but I also think we had a much different like industry landscape, as in there were like professionals and then non-professionals, and those are dictated by college degrees. But there have been a lot of people who've straight up like fallen out of the middle class because of just because of the you know, the innovation economy and really the fourth industrial revolution in software. And so if you're not a part of like that software game and you're not like a doctor or a lawyer, you know, you might have kind of like fell off a little bit in yeah, I'm not sure. And then there's other people, trust me, like I understand generational wealth in the Bay Area and how that plays. Like I have quite a lot of family members who play into that shit. And like, if that's you, congratulations, like ride that wave, you know, live off of your inheritance, your trust fund, like be cool. Like there are people from both sides and like everybody deserves, but I guess I would just really encourage people to really think about as you're, you know, because I've seen quite a lot of people who are like raising their children now. Some people are pregnant, people are getting married, buying homes, choosing where to live. Like, I think there's some things that, you know, you might want to know, like, really think about, look at the society that you see right now. Maybe even think about the way that you grew up. And understand that even in the Bay Area, as liberal as it may be, there is a lot of segregation. And I feel like one of the reasons I've been able to bridge so many gaps is because I've been a part of so many different communities at the same time. But I think one thing that is so weird is that because there are so few people like me who have been a part of, say, like the arts community and the engineering community at the same time, people don't even know how to communicate like back and forth or know like what those like lifestyles are like. Like I love hearing more and more stories of people who like are artists and then they become engineers, or, you know, just people who are from some other community and are kind of like understanding and involving themselves in tech or some other like professional career. But also maybe think about the fact that there's also like poor people here, and quite a lot of the poor people are people of color. And if you're going to choose to like raise your family in the Bay Area in a way where you are exercising the freedom and privilege of your wealth, you might actually grow up, you might be choosing to like isolate your children or really like segregate them in a way. And I don't know if that's good. I don't know. You know, I don't want to say it's bad either. Because some of you I do actually know from certain academic communities, and I don't want to sound like I'm the person who's saying segregate your children, like don't give them great opportunities, don't do these particular, you know, extracurricular activities. Like I'm not saying that, but I am saying that if all of the activities that you're choosing to do are causing your family to be in an entirely different group than maybe like another racial group, that might be an issue, and that might be something that you could potentially solve for by like almost like crossing a picket line in a sense of like activities or places to live. And then on the other side, I would say if you are, you know, if you're a transplant and you're buying property, I've seen a lot of people move into like my mom's neighborhood in Oakland. We call that like East Lake by Lake Merritt. It's a lovely community, but it's not the hills, right? Like it's like, we're not talking about up on the hill by Joaquin Miller. Like East Lake is the flatlands, definitely by like you know, Oakland High, and the lake obviously that by the Luckies, you know, over there. And a lot of the people who live in that community don't actually participate in the neighborhood. Like a lot of them don't even use the local neighborhood parks. They don't send their kids to the neighborhood schools. And if you're a Black family buying property in that neighborhood, I mean, I really hope that you have also put aside enough money to invest in private school education, really, because the infrastructure in Oakland is awful. The schools are kind of awful. This is like literally why growing up, my grandma lived in North Berkeley and my mom lived in Oakland. But that this is why I didn't go to any of the Oakland public schools, because OUSD has been trashed for a long fucking time. It's just known. So if you're gonna put your kid in public school there's like there's a few public schools that are okay, and there's definitely parents, like if you're a part of a cool parent squad who's gonna put in the time to make the school a bit better. But I mean, you got infrastructure problems in terms of like poor heating, water pipes, filtration, like air and heat, books. There's not enough materials. I don't think you're not getting college prep material, unfortunately, like from those schools. Though there are some people who've definitely like gone through the schools and you know, claim that they were great for them, but like I'm just not seeing it being like STEM competitive, especially given like what I've seen in industry, and to just understand where the Silicon Valley parents are coming from, specifically like Redmond, that whole like Microsoft town. I've just never seen anywhere so perfect. It's like a Star Wars utopia that's like training a whole new generation of engineers, and they actually are of all shades, just because like there's so many Indian people. So they're like a colorful bunch of super engineers who have working infrastructure in great public schools. You know, like, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen to all of the children of color in the Bay Area and how they're gonna compete with that, with these shitty ass schools in Oakland. So I would just say beware of that. Just know that that exists. Know that that's a problem so that you can plan for it. Because I definitely have talked to quite a lot of parents who are just stuck in that conundrum of like, how do you deal with that? And maybe that's a video for a whole other day. It's a life hack that like I figured out, but I don't think that's a conversation for this video. But yeah, I wanted to put that out there. All right.